What's next? Let's see. Let's check the list. Oh, it disappeared? Imagine that. I must have washed my hands or something. Let's see. The next one on the list is going to be Wilson. Yeah, this one. The one that's older than Clovis. Older than Clovis? How do you know? It's older than Clovis, okay? And the base and stem is ground. It's thick. Thick and rich and chocolate. Yeah. Thick and rich and chocolate. Here we go. This is the book, okay? In case you're going to ask me, which you are, even though I showed it in the last video. So I'm going to nap a chunk into a Wilson. And believe it or not, there's more than one type of point that's older than Clovis. Oh yeah. You've been watching the channel, you know. But not everyone's been watching the channel. Because they're lame. Yeah. Sorry. Alright. You might say, well, you're going to alienate people. Yeah, I know. I know. Doesn't that matter to you? Nope. Don't matter. Okay, let's see. Do I use the Nacho-Matic in this one? I did not use it in the last video. I don't need to use it in this one either. What am I gonna do? Yeah, we'll just percussionize it. Is it a heat treat? I don't know, I can't tell. Sometimes I can't tell. Imagine that. Can't tell. That might be high grade raw. Yeah. High grade raw sometimes naps just like a heat treat. And it has not been exposed to any kind of heat whatsoever. Just been deep in the ground, minding its own business, until some kind of machinery digs it up. I think that's what this is from. A construction site. But it might be a heat treat, I don't know. I have napped stuff like this in the raw state that's excellent. This feels like it's excellent. How long is this? This is the size I like to work. I bet you it's 3 inches. Told ya! See, I don't even need to measure it. It's on there. I'm going to make it about the same size as the Merrill. If possible. Yeah, and thicker. A little bit thicker. We're going to try to go thicker and thicker as it goes along. Alright, until I'm going to do that Martindale. The thickest. Yeah. I mentioned the Martindales are very well made. How can it be that a point that's very well made be thick? It goes against everything in my bones. Yeah, I know. The culture around napping really doesn't reflect napping very well. It doesn't reflect the history of napping. It reflects, you know, popular discussions about napping, but yeah, you can have excellently made points that are really thick. In case you didn't know. If you didn't know, now you know. Yeah. Maybe you didn't want to know that. I know some people that don't want to know things. I tell them something and they didn't really want to know that. How do I know? It's hard for me to tell, but sometimes you can kind of see it on their face when they go, I don't. want to even hear that anymore. I'm out of here. They just leave. They kind of wander off and say, oh yeah, I forgot. I need to go mail something. Regular mail? Yeah, I gotta go to the post office. See you later. See, they don't want to hear it. Yeah, I can make up a likely excuse. You know that there's such thing as email, right? I didn't go to the post office anyway. I'm out of here. Any excuse is a good excuse to not have to listen to the truth. Yeah. I warned you. I told you in my channel news videos, I'm going to be yapping. Yep. I'm sorry. It's the law of the West. That never gets old, no. Not with me anyway. With you, yeah, maybe. I get sick of hearing me say that. You're not even in the West anymore, and you still say that. Yeah, okay, fine. I understand. I understand the conundrum. I got a natural crack in here. Talking about conundrums. What am I gonna do? It's gonna mess me all up. Yeah. It is gonna mess me all up. Well, we'll see. Is that wide enough for a Wilson stem? I think that is still wide enough for a Wilson stem. Yeah. But remember, we cannot go thin with it. Nope. Why don't I put thick in the title? I should put some. I should put the word thick in the title. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Will this qualify as a Wilson? Can I make it, or is this stem too narrow that I got already? Yeah, it matches that one. It just barely is a wide enough stem. Yeah, just barely. It doesn't match a lot of these, but these up here, yes. So it's not out of range. I just gotta shorten it a little bit so it'll get fatter. Yeah, unfortunately. But look, the Wilsons are not long points. See that? I got plenty of space. See that? These are actual size, in case you're wondering. Yeah, that's why I use the book. It's actual size. There are other books that have points, and there are other things that I could print out, little studies and stuff. But they all got little scales on them, and they're all different sizes. So I got to manipulate the printer to get it to print out the right size, to be actual size, so I can, put some of my preforms next to the actual size points. But it's too much work. Yeah. If it's too much work, I get distracted. Yeah. If I'm busy doing a bunch of stuff, like trying to get the right size, and also find the article in my library of articles I got, all my PDFs in my files, I get distracted and say, wait a second, what's this file? I open it up. I got a file on rock art mixed in with my Flintknapping. That won't do. I gotta create a new folder for rock art and look through all my files for rock art articles. Yeah, no, switch it over. Wait a second. If I do this, I'll be spending like a long time doing it. So let's stop. I know I got only partially filled new folder, but I'll finish it later. Okay? Come back. What was I looking for? I don't know. Got no idea. Got no idea what I was looking for. I'll figure it out later. But for now, look at this mess. I got a bunch of files in here that's not supposed to be in here. I got PDFs of stuff that's not even archaeology. So there I go. So that's why I just get a book. Let's get all the files that are right size. I mean, all the pictures that are the normal size. Yeah. You might say, well, that happens to everybody. Everyone does that. No, not everybody does that. Some people got the sense to say, I'm going to go look for size of a Wilson point. See which articles I have on Wilson that has little pictures with the scale and just print that one out. Easy peasy. What's so hard about that? Just sit there and do it. You know, straight line from point A to point B. Find the Wilson article, print out the Wilson article, adjust the size so it's actual size, and you got something you can go by. What's so hard about it? They don't know, do they? No. They just don't know. Yeah. ADHD is just like eating potato chips. You can't just do one thing. You can't just eat one potato chip. No. The brain won't let you. Especially if you're in a happy mood. When you're in a happy mood, you want to do everything. Catch up on stuff you haven't done. It should have been done a long time ago. I'm in a good mood. I can do a lot of stuff today. Yeah. So you start to realize that the better the mood you're in, the more you want to do. So you want to try to cut down the number of distractions. So you try to ride that line between feeling terrible and feeling okay. Because if you feel really good, you get overwhelmed too fast and then you crash. How do I know these things? I don't know. Why do you crash? Because you take on too much. Yeah. It's just too much. You're only supposed to eat one potato chip. But no. You shove them all in your mouth at once. You can't eat and enjoy when you shove them all in your mouth at one time. Yeah. Anyways, why do I mention that stuff? Because I was around my kids for the holidays. Yeah. It reminded me of all the stuff that happens. Oh, yes. And you can't help it. So it's not bad. It's just you gotta learn to deal with it. So I just get a book that already has actual size, and I always use it. You should know by now, and you shouldn't have to ask what book it is. But no, there's too many new people. Always the new people. Always. Lots of new people. Why don't you explain what you're doing? I don't want to hear about all this other stuff. I know. But I enjoy that you don't like it. I enjoy that you don't like when I talk about other stuff. Yeah. How much explaining do you think was done back in the day? When they were making points that are more superior than the ones they got now? Hmm? When the flint knappers were better back in the day, how do you think they explained everything? Did they explain everything? Did they know physics? Did they? No, they didn't know anything about physics. They didn't explain much, probably. Why? Because it was highly competitive. These are warriors and hunters making these things. Yeah, you gotta prove yourself. You don't prove yourself by going, how do I do it? I can't do it. How do I do it? I need to know exactly how it can be done. No, you just do it. And then if you can't do it right away, you practice. And keep doing it over and over again. Trying to get different results. Because that's what practice is. And then you do it. While you're talking about other stuff while you're napping. Okay? What do you talk about when you're napping? You don't know, do you? Because you haven't been to a napping. You gotta go to a napping. What do they talk about when they're napping at a napping? A lot of times they're not talking about how to chip the stone. Oh yeah. They're not talking about that stuff. Not usually. Unless someone is really lost. And sure. But they're not gonna start teaching you a class on physics. They're gonna watch you hit the stone and go, okay, well, this, you can probably change this up a little bit. Change that up a little bit. Or do this, or watch this guy do that you're trying to do. And you'll see, maybe, that you can adopt that technique. See? Just monkey see monkey do that. Okay? That kind of thing. Some people go just to watch. They don't sit and nap. They're nappers, but they don't sit and nap. They just watch. They go to napping and they just watch. Did you bring your tools and stuff? No, I'm just here for the afternoon. I'm just going to watch you guys. Yep. Absorb everything like a sponge. Yeah, it's a good idea. Good to see you. I'm glad you're sponging it today. Yeah, I'm going to sponge it. That's what I'm doing. That's why I make videos, so you can sponge it. Sponge it all up. But I need the physics. I need it. What are the vectors and the forces and the mechanics? Yeah. I know. I've been there. I know. But that kind of stuff is difficult to get correct. It's difficult to be correct when you're explaining the physics. Because it's not well understood even by scientists how this stuff breaks. And what can be done? What are the possibilities? I mean, we're pretty set as far as knowing many different possibilities. We're pretty well set up to explain how it could have been done. But we don't know exactly. And we don't even know exactly how heat treatment works with all stones. We kind of understand how it works with some stones. but not all stones are composed of the same materials or structures. So heat affects different stones in different ways. That kind of thing. But you don't need to know any of that stuff to do heat treating. You don't need to know the forces and the angles and all that. You just get used to doing what produces a certain result, and then you tweak it from there. You want long flakes? Always get long flakes? Well, who is always getting long flakes? Long, thin, narrow flakes with perfect sequential patterns? Who's doing that on the internet? The flake over grind guys? The FOG, fog? Go watch those guys if you want regular patterning. Dennis Hopper, right? I wish I could remember his names. Hopper is one of those. I think there's still some videos of his up on YouTube. Go do that stuff. Yeah, if you want perfect regular flaking. You might say, no, I want to see how they could be so perfect back in the day. Yeah, that's what I want to see. Well, I'm working on it, but I'm very slow to do that because it takes forever with very little benefit. You really don't get that many views. You get views if you edit the video so it looks like any other how-to video where you just see the clips of the important stages and then the finished result in less than a minute. Those are the ones that get lots of views. Those edited videos. You don't get the ones that show you the whole process and all the sweat and all the pain and suffering. Yeah. And the mistakes and the broken ones, they'll just delete the broken stuff and start over again, make a new video so that they got only stuff that's not broken, only stuff that's easy to comprehend, and that sort of thing. To get perfect flaking back in the day required lots of time and effort and patience, and usually the best conditions you could hope for in the weather, one, in the materials, best condition of materials, and someone who lived long enough to be able to expend 15, 20, 25 years of their lives perfecting their technique. I mean, you already know all this stuff. And the reason why those videos that will show you all this in minor excruciating detail are not really the kind that people like to watch is because you already know this stuff. You already know that it's going to take forever to develop the skill in its excruciating detail in maintaining the tools and setting up the edges for flakes and picking the right material and sampling all of the rocks you've got to get the material that'll flake the right way, and maybe heat treat here and experiment there with various other stones, blah 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 blah. Okay, but you already know this stuff, so that kind of video doesn't do well. As I get better, I will do it as it becomes easier for me. Yeah, but I don't want to spend a whole week doing one video that's going to get less views than a chit-chat video. That only takes me, an hour and a half instead of the whole week. Yeah, to show you something you already know. was reading a book or listening to a book lately on Comanches. Now, I don't know the full title of the book, but it's interesting to a point. It incorporates a lot of hearsay. So I don't know what to believe. When it comes to Flintknapping, they do mention some flint working in that book. And they mentioned that Comanches use two different types of points, warfare points and hunting points. Okay, so in general, yeah, that's pretty obvious. But then they go into the that story where the barbed points that they used when they hit someone, an enemy with a barbed point, you couldn't extract it like by pulling it out. You had to push it all the way through the body. No, there are ways to extract barbed points. You just got to do it carefully. And you can use, even the Romans back thousands of years ago had a technique where they would take a couple of spoons or spoon-like devices and push that into the wound so that these spoons covered the arrowhead. And then they wrapped the spoons together to clamp onto the arrowhead, and they pull the whole thing out. The three pieces. The arrow shaft with the arrowhead, the upper spoon and lower spoon, all together. And there was similar techniques back in the day on the frontier with the Native Americans. The field doctors would have a device that looked like big wide tweezers, and they could get in there and clamp the arrowhead and pull it out. Now, if you didn't have medical equipment, you were screwed. But how difficult is it to come up with two pieces of wood that you can do that with? It's better than pushing it all the way through. You just take a piece of wood, like a tongue depressor on each side, and you lash these tongue depressors together so that they clamp down on the arrowhead, and so it doesn't move too much, and you pull the whole thing out. Okay, I just gave you the answer to how you would pull out barbed points. Yeah, you don't need to push it all the way through, and stuff like this misleads you into thinking that life was a certain way when it wasn't. Okay, so that book you have to take it with a grain of salt. In other words, and there's many examples of various things like that, where it's just hearsay. These things that are supposedly what people did back in the day. Supposedly people did certain things back in the day, and it's not really, how should I say it? It's not really insightful. Anyways, it's interesting to listen to the stories. How do I know how to pull out arrowheads? I research a lot of stuff that has to do with warfare. It's one of my hobbies, actually. And I was in the military too. So I was into researching not only modern warfare, but ancient warfare. And it's good to know basic first aid techniques. Yeah. Basic first aid stuff was known for centuries. Yeah. We can even learn basic first aid and stuff like that from the accounts of the Romans when dealing with these primitive weapons, so-called. Anyways. I'm still going to do those Eaton points and Scott's Bluffs points and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I will still do those. They will be coming up. They take a lot of time, yes, and I complain about it, but I will eventually do it. Not only because people want to see it, but I want to know as well how they were done, or at least know one way that they could have been done and what it requires. Maybe there's something I'm missing, that maybe there's a shortcut to how they're done. Yeah, you might be missing some technique that shortens the process or makes it much easier. Or maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just, you know, put your nose to the grindstone for years and years and years, and then you can do it. And that's it. But yeah, I want to know if that's the case or not. Does it have to be that hard to make these points that look perfect? It seems like it is that hard, yeah. But it may not be. Who knows? Somebody might stumble on something. Yeah, there's jigs and stuff like that people have come up with, which are ingenious. And there might have been jigs back in the day. Yeah. We don't know for sure. But who knows? It could be just a matter of strength. Once you build up enough strength and you've lifted enough weight and practiced enough with a certain exercise, that you can pressure flake almost anything. Maybe that's it. Maybe you just need to develop Herculean strength and you can start doing all kinds of stuff that they used to do back in the day. Maybe that's it. This is a little bit thicker than the other one. Hopefully it won't get too much thinner in the process of cleaning this up. Because yeah, I want to leave it thick. Some sources call it biconvex. They don't say thick, they say biconvex because it sounds smarter. Yeah, I know. Makes them sound really smart. Sure. They learned that from their lawyer friends, I guess. But anyways, yeah, some of these points were quite thick. And they don't have to be symmetrical either. I usually try to make everything nice and symmetrical for the videos, because people want to see how it's done. How easy is it to get it symmetrical? Well, the more careful you are with it, the easier it is. But you can be extremely careful and still mess it up. Yeah. You gotta get used to the stone, for sure. Yeah. Sometimes it takes forever. It seems like it's gonna take forever. I know. Seems like it's going to take hundreds and hundreds of pounds of stone to get used to it. Yeah, I know. And sometimes it does. It takes hundreds and sometimes thousands of pounds of stone to get used to it. I'm already starting the grinding process because these stems are ground. And also I'm doing this to see what I got. I'm taking off the delicate areas first. I had to make this at least somewhat symmetrical. This is in a, oops. The stems are expanding, right? So I need to do an expanding stem. See that? So I need to do more of a constriction. But I want to make sure I'm wide enough. Yeah, I'm barely wide enough. Yeah, but I think it matches fairly well, but not. It just barely matches. Yeah, for what I'm working with. This, remember, it was narrow to begin with because I had some issues earlier on. Anyways, I think it'll work. And if you can see a thinning opportunity and I don't take it, it's because I don't want it to be thin. Yeah. Strange concept, I know. You might say, well, that's really thin. No, not really. I mean, I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I gotta make them even thicker. Have I seen really thick stemmed artifacts? Yeah, I have. And sometimes I wonder, how the heck do they do that and still haft it? Why did they do that? I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. Alright, are we still wide enough? Because I took off a lot. Dang it. With that strike, I took off too much. Why does it matter how wide the stems are? It matters for hafting. Yeah, not just to match the artifact, but if you get the width of the neck just right, it works really well when you haft it, because it'll be able to be bound tightly to the shaft. If you have the stem at the exact correct width. And yeah, you make a bunch of foreshafts of the same width ahead of time, so that all your points can be made to that width. As you can see, the Wilsons in the picture, the neck. They call this at the neck between the notches. On a lot of these, you can see that the width is similar across the neck. Now, some of these have narrow necks, right? These two. But if you make a set, you know, the neck usually is the same between the points. If you look at matching sets, it's really not the width of the bar, but it's the across the neck, because that's the where you lash it, and it's important to have the lashings and everything, you know, tight up against all the material. You don't want a bunch of areas where the lashing is just flying out. If it's too wide, you don't want to have some lashing that is not firmly attached to the shaft. It's just if the stem is really wide and you lash it, you're going to have gaps between the shaft and the lashings. It's best that you match the width. Okay? As an example, anyways, I don't have much more to do on this, except maybe a couple more flakes from the base. On the artifacts, in the pictures especially, there's thinning, there's looks like pressure flakes, but it could be percussion flakes to thin out these stems. And then the rest of this is all random flaked. Yeah. So let's put in some thinning flakes from the base. Yeah, like that. I did some thinning flakes earlier, but they stopped in that little step fracture. I'm looking to see if they had the step fractures. Not very many had those step fractures in there. So let's see if I can take that out. In fact, I don't see any with stopped flakes. They all have flakes that are going all the way the length of the stem. Or the whole, you know, the thinning flakes go the whole length of the stem. Let's see if I can do one of those. I can probably do one of those with, or, you know, a couple of those with percussion. Indirect percussion. Okay. Did they use indirect percussion back in the day? Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming that they did at least some of them. I don't know. I don't know how extensive it was, if it was used. All right. Not flute. Dang it. Thinning flake. A little bit too much. Okay. Maybe they saw a Clovis guy do it. Yeah. I'm just going to leave it. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's accident. How can I do that by accident? You just saw it. A little bit too much force. And with you know, nice material, this is either heat treat or high grade raw, the flake just traveled a lot. But yeah, unexpectedly good, or unexpectedly well. I'm going to try to clear up some of these little step fractures. I know I can pick off some of this material that is hanging on there, but I'm going to try to clean that up with some bolder flakes, even though a lot of those Wilsons look like they're all kind of chattery like this. Yeah. In the picture in the book, they look like they may be just chattery like this. And it thins down the point also when you try to clean it up. So I'll try to do just narrow flakes. Thin, narrow flakes. Not big, broad, deep flakes. How do I do just narrow flakes? Well, it's not easy. You got to find a ridge or something that the flake can travel on and not spread out. Just follow some kind of ridge. Yeah, easier said than done. If there's no ridges and it can't follow any, you're just going to get a wide flake. Now, of course, you can get narrow flakes even though there's not a ridge, but the technique requires some finesse. Yeah. What kind of finesse? The kind I don't have. Not yet, anyway. In other words, I can't tell you how to do it. Until I can actually do it. Because I usually get broad flakes. The long, narrow ones are the difficult ones for me because not only do I like the broad ones, but I've trained myself to make the broad ones, and I don't have much experience in making the narrow ones. This is still probably not thicker. Well, yeah, I guess it is a little bit thicker. Okay. Alright, so I've already cleaned up the surface. Now it's just a matter of doing the edge work. And I can probably percussion the edges and have it look right. Yeah. With no pressure flaking at all. Now, if it looks right, does that mean it has a certain kind of flaking? Well, yes, it has a certain kind of flaking called crude flaking or expedient flaking. And that can be done in various ways. Come on. And without seeing both sides of the Wilson points, I don't know if some of them had a beveling type of sharpening, or maybe a hybrid type of sharpening where it is kind of beveled, but then they do some bifacial as well. I don't know. That's why you need more than just the front view. Do some articles in archaeological research papers have side views? Yeah, but it's rare. And when they do, they're usually looking at the 1% of the 1%. They'll pick the best one of the sample as far as quality goes, and they'll go, this is a representative type, even though most of them are not like that. And they'll say, okay, this is it. And they'll show you a side view of maybe a 1 out of 100 that's really thin, but they like that one. This is a diagnostic type, really thin. I know it's only like 1% of them are like this, but we've chosen this one as a diagnostic. Yeah. Okay. You can find those kinds of studies. Very rarely do they show you the whole database. This might be a little wide. All right, let's finish this up. This shouldn't take very long. I mean, I'm taking an hour on each one of these. Yeah, they're not that complicated. Let's see. Yeah, they're ground down. So let me just make these edges dull enough to grind them easily. I know that doesn't make sense, but if you take off the delicate sharp areas, it makes grinding it down much easier. Because you're not altering the shape, you're not altering shape very much, you're just kind of making it dull. Yeah. I think some of these Wilsons are dull up in here too. Let's see. It doesn't show in the picture, but some of them I think are ground up here as well. So I think they were wrapped up here as well as down here. But we won't take the chance. And yes, you can wrap up on the blade, and it was done sometimes, and that's why you get this little constriction here sometimes. Not all the time, but I think that's why you see the constriction up here on the blade, is because they were not only wrapping down below, but they would wrap up on the blade slightly. Why? Well, maybe because they want to cover up all of the wood and glue, so they wrap around it so the wood and glue doesn't show. Could be one reason. Why don't you want it to show? Well, it's just a stronger bond if you have wrap all the way around everything. It's not really so you can't see it. It just makes it a stronger bond if everything is covered with wrapping. Anyway, there could be one reason why they would wrap up on the blade, just so they can wrap everything. All right, so let's see. Yeah, some of these have the concave bases. I'm just barely. Yeah. I'm within range, right? But just barely. And the blade width I'm at the maximum, according to these specimens. So yeah, I got the minimum width on the stem and the maximum width on the blade. So it's probably not a good example of a Wilson, but it's within range. I should probably make it more narrow. But they may have started out wider and then they just rework them and they get more narrow. That one should have been not so much of a big flake. It should have been a shorter flake that only went up the length of the stem. But as luck would have it, that was a nice long flake. See, they should be about that big on the stem, which, you know, it indicates that they didn't spend all that much time preparing the surfaces for their flaking. They were just simple flaking. Okay, yeah, older than Clovis. It's not the same size, is it? Yeah, I lost some off the base because of an earlier issue. Okay. I'm going to go in after this. I was going to make one more point, but I need to get on the schedule and not stay up so late. So there you go. It is thicker than the previous one, I think. And the next one will be even thicker. I'm just barely... Yeah, okay. It is heftier. Nice and translucent, this one is. And there are other points in the archaeological record that look like this, but they're not Wilson points. Okay, there's later points like Marshall and such that look like this, but they're not this old. Not as old as those, anyway. Yeah. Okay. There you go. That's it.